Welcome to the third video in my Renaissance Warfare series. In this video I'll be taking you through my Aztec army. I'm using Neil Thomas's 1 Hour War Games for this project, so each army is going to have essentially 10 units. Occasionally armies will have more than 10 if I want to include some options for them, but the basic set is 10 units, and from these 10 units at the start of each scenario you roll on a chart to see which 6 you'll get to use for the particular scenario you're playing. The Aztecs required a bit of shoehorning to get them to work with the 1 Hour War Games rules, and I've taken unit types from other periods that the rules cover, periods other than the pike and shot, which is the setting I'm using, and substitutes them to give me an Aztec army that I think will at least give some flavour of an actual Aztec army when it's used on the battlefield. The backbone of all the armies in this project are the infantry units, and infantry units are generally pike and shot. Obviously this wasn't going to work for the Aztecs since they had neither pike nor shot. However, going back in time a little to the medieval part of the rules, your army can have knights. Knights represent armoured foot knights, not mounted knights. The mounted knights are covered by the cavalry rules. So I decided that since Aztecs had knights, I'd use them as the backbone of my army. So I have 4 units of Aztec knights. Here we go. So there's 9 figures to a base. All my Aztecs are metal miniatures. They're made by Foundry. They're sculpted by Joseph Ockman. I stuck to one range to avoid too many choices, so here we are, a mixture of Eagle Knights and Jaguar Knights, and because it's an element based rule system, these 9 guys can represent quite a lot of actual Aztecs, including their little retinues. Because they were used to taking prisoners, they'd need a bunch of sort of followers, much like Achilles and the Trojan warriors had, to take prisoners and look after them and loot bodies. So my core army is made up of 4 units of these knights. Knights are quite hard hitting, as befits the training from birth of nearly birth, training from young manhood of Aztec knights, who were the most experienced warriors the Aztecs had. Okay, so they do quite a bit of damage in the rules, and they move quite quickly, which is nice to give them a kind of home turf advantage. So all 4 units here. Actually, let's not scrimp. Let's show you. So there we go. 4 units of knights. I might have to put them to one side rather than trying to slot them back in. There we go, and the last slot. Alright, so put those down. That's the main units taken care of. Next up in army selection comes, in the pike and shot rules, reiters, which of course are mounted missile troops. Mounted troops aren't an option for the Aztecs. Never mind. I decided to have war bands. Again, these are from, I think, the Dark Ages section of the rules. War bands are numerous, fast, and again, like the knights, they inflict quite a bit of damage. So for my war bands, which are replacing the reiters option, which you can have 2 of, so I did 2 war bands of novice warriors. There are 12 to a base to show that they really are packed in, and they're all multiples. I think there's 2 sets of, no, I can't remember. There's 2 or 3 sets of 6 miniatures. So 2 of those represent reiters, and one of these represents cavalry, which is the 4th troop option, because obviously, you know, no horses. I didn't need to do 4 because you can never have both cavalry and both reiters in the same set of 6. So I did 3 warbands for 36 figures. The next troop choice is swordsman. Oh joy, something that makes sense. So swordsman is fine. The Aztecs can have swordsman. So here we have veteran warriors. I did 10 veteran warriors to a set, and they operate just like swordsmen in any other army, except of course you get quite a lot of them to do the same sort of effect. So there's one there. Now you get 2 swordsmen, but there were lots of swordsman figures, so I've done 3 bases of swordsman. That's the 3rd one. So I could use all the miniatures, which gives this army the 10 units it needs if I ever, you know, do a battle with all my toys on the table. Another rules change I've made is that the Aztecs will always get an extra base of swordsmen, an extra unit of swordsmen, as well as the 6 they roll. There's precedent for this in Neil Thomas's Crimean rules. I use the Russians get free Cossacks, so I don't feel I'm breaking the spirit of anything with that. And that essentially is the complete army for 1 hour war games. But I like having commanders, and I have worked out some simple rules for commanders and religious bases, which I'll introduce after we've played the game as written. For my commanders, my commander-in-chief is Montezuma, with a couple of well-attired attendants. I have a secondary general who was a leftover warrior who didn't fit on the swordsman bases. He's got a couple of attendants, and then I've got a religious base. All my army is going to have a religious sort of command stand for morale reasons. So that's a priest, and then there's a sacrifice set behind. They've just chopped out a heart to keep everyone's spirits up. So I've added those into the mix. And finally, as part of this project, I'm trying to make sure I have a little bit of scenery, bit of scatter terrain to give the right feeling for each army when it's on its home ground. So I bought some Aztec ruins. Really, I didn't want ruins. I wanted new shiny Aztec stuff. That tends to be like a pyramid or something quite big. So in the end, I settled for ruins, as it gives the right feel without necessarily being very accurate. So the first bits of scenery are from Scotia Grendel, and they're resin. There's a set of statues which are based up together, and a little altar which I did together on a base. These are based on foamed PVC Sintra board because it doesn't warp. So those are like gaming pieces. Then for the bigger pieces, I got some Aquarium Decorations. These are also resin, but they're hollow and they're much lighter than the wargaming stuff. They're about £12 each. I based them, painted them up. I filled some holes in the side here. They have holes in them because fish are meant to swim through them, obviously. So there's a sitting one there, and there's the big standing one. There we go, and that should set the scene nicely. Now, I thought this lot of Aztecs would take me 2 months to finish, but I actually finished them in 1 month, 1 and a bit months, because I did some at the end of December in 2021, and I'm filming this at the end of January in 2022, where I completed the rest. So I'm ahead of schedule, and next on the painting table is Conquistadors, which will be the subject of the next video in this series. And once the Conquistadors are done, I will hope to film at least one battle between them and the Aztecs, and also between them and the Lanztecs, because Spanish can fight Lanztecs quite happily, and give you my thoughts on the rules and how I think everything went, before launching into the next army, which will be Elizabethan Sea Dogs. So if you got this far, thank you for watching, thank you for staying with it. Please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon, leave a comment, tell your friends, and I'll see you here next time for the Conquistadors.